I used to go to DC10 a lot on a Monday in the terrace when it was its wildest, those years.
Yeah.
Planes coming over.
Yeah.
And I used to look around at all my mates thinking, people are at work in England. How blessed am I to be doing this on a Monday?
Yeah.
And everyone else in England's probably bored to death at work, and we're raving at the best club in the world.
Yeah.
The wildest people. And we're going to Manumission tonight.
And then space the next morning, and then Bora Bora.
Yeah. I mean, no wonder we got depressed in the winter.
Once I sort of realised Ibiza had its day with me and I wasn't really getting anywhere there, and I'd had my fun. I think everything had come to an end. Everything died. Clockwork, God's Kitchen, Manumission, long gone, I thought, who am I? Where am I going? Ended up going over to Thailand, and I went snorkeling. And that was when I've got goosebumps now. That was when I really saw, it was like the scenes in Finding Nemo and Little Mermaid. Looked to my right to see where my friends were, and there was a great shark just swimming next to me like this. The most beautiful thing I think I'd ever seen, but with a flip of the tail, it was gone. And it wasn't until I was jumping out of a plane that I had this epiphany. And as I was falling out of the sky, I don't know why, but as I landed and I thought, that night I thought, I'm going to set up my own charity, and the words pure sea just came to me.
Smash the subscribe button.
There we go. 70% of you guys who watch my videos have not subscribed to this channel, and my number one fan has been begging me to come on and do a video with me, haven't you? So Say it again. What do they need to do?
Smash that subscribe button.
You do that, and let's go and do the interview. So here we are again, Lisa.
Hi.
This time, last time we had a power cut or something happened. Not really too sure, but welcome back to podcast 2. And to be honest, I think it was the universe working its magic last time, because all we did was talk about Manumission.
I know.
Which was great, because it was one of my favourite times of my life, and yours, obviously.
Yeah.
And then we were talking, if you don't remember, about kind of like having two childhoods. And I think we were talking about, like, I still to this day, I'm almost in my 50s. And I still don't get grown-up stuff, like marriage or buying a house or leasing a car or...
Adulting doesn't work for me.
No, I still can't figure it out. And
I've had to be a parent, but it's still
That's okay. That's okay. I don't, because I'm still allowed to be the big kid, because I'm still not grown up with them. And because they all think I'm daft as a brush with I just don't. I'm like a big kid with them. I'm too soft with them, and all those things you shouldn't be. But that's great. I've got a great relationship with them. But the rest of the family, they have to do the adulting.
Yes.
Do you agree with that? But
totally.
do you think that's down to like type of people we are, or something to do with Ibiza as well? Us spending that amount of time in that crazy environment.
Well, I think running away. You're like me, sort of. Early 20, well, I hit 20, that was it. I was off. And you're not really grown up then, are you?
No.
And I suppose running away from where I wasn't doing a real adult thing. And obviously going to live in Ibiza isn't really adulting, is it? Not when we're doing what we were doing.
It absolutely wasn't. It was nowhere near. It was just criminal.
And
half
being
the time,
obsessed with getting dressed up in God knows what and taking out props and just behaving like
the most stupidest things ever.
Yeah, and that went on for 10 years. So
I don't know if I said this on the previous podcast, but I don't know. It was I don't like Mondays, and funny enough, it's Monday today. And I used to go to DC10 a lot on a Monday. And then do the Manumission after, which was just stupid,
Yeah.
And I used to be dancing like in the terrace when it was its wildest, those years.
Yeah.
With planes coming over.
Yeah.
And I used to look around at all my mates thinking, people are at work in
Yeah,
England. And I
yeah,
used to think that. And like,
I did.
how blessed am I
I
to be
know.
doing this on a fucking Monday? And
Yeah,
everyone else in England's probably bored to death at work. And we're raving at the best club in the world with the
yeah,
wildest people. And we're going to Manumission tonight.
yeah. And then space the next morning, and then Bora
Yeah,
Bora, and then on to somewhere
absolutely.
else.
And it was just, I mean, no wonder we got depressed in the winter.
Yeah, of course.
So,
Culture
but
comes down
when
to a
you,
lot.
so this podcast, I really want to talk about the second part of your life. I was
Oh,
so fortunate to actually manage to make it to one of your nights in Ibiza
I
last
know,
year.
and I'm so glad you
It was so,
came.
and it was so unplanned. And then as I got there, I realized, I went, it's POC, yay!
Yeah,
And
I'm
we
so
went, so
glad you
yeah. So
came.
I would recommend it to anybody. And yeah, what a great bunch of people.
I know. And
Oh,
that
yeah.
day was just a day of jubilation for me because within Ibiza, that's another whole thing. I mean, I'm supported by my bestest, closest friends in Ibiza, and I'm very blessed with Tom and Tony Netto and Jen and Joe and everybody over there. Um, but this year in particular, when we did the beach clean, we have now the full backing of San Antonio government and the town hall.
Yeah.
And last year, the governess actually said, "Thank you, you crazy woman from the UK coming to clean our beaches. You've been the switch. You've been the change that has made us take notice of our beaches." Because she said, "I took my husband out. We thought our beaches were clean, but after you said you pulled out 90 bags of rubbish from Calagracio, she said." This has been
Mm,
amazing. And this year we had 3 schools come down with an interpreter translator. We had 3 schools come down.
mhm.
They all got fully involved, and it was just probably the highlight of my year. It was
I'm going to
amazing.
put some of the content over
Yeah, brilliant.
this interview, and yeah, it's amazing what you've done. And yeah, Ibiza. The only beach cleaning I ever remember from Ibiza was the metal detectors in the morning.
Oh,
No,
don't. Or hanging on to the tractors as they
yeah,
turn
that's
on
right.
the
Oh, they
stand
hated it,
and they
didn't they?
turn around and
Yeah,
go,
no, 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 every morning. And the old men with the metal detectors used to go out and try and find all the money and
yeah,
watches that had
yeah,
been left
yeah.
there. That was the only beach cleaning back in the day. But yeah, I did hang off a few of those tractors. Let's talk about you falling in love with the ocean and with the sharks, I
Uh,
believe. What started all this off?
yeah. So once I sort of like realized Ibiza had its day with me and I wasn't really getting anywhere there and I'd had my fun, I thought, "Do you know what, I'm going to go off traveling." And I think everything had come to an end. Tried to kind of style it out, everything died. Clockwork, God's Kitchen, Manumission, long gone, I thought, who am I? Where am I going? So I went traveling and ended up going over to Thailand. We had the most amazing time. I literally led the way and we went all around the North Islands, all went up to Chiang Mai, Chiang Rai, did all of that first because I didn't want to go down to the South Islands just yet. I really wanted to travel. Went up to see the long neck tribes, went trekking through the Burmese borders, just living off the land. Went out 5 days just eating what they'd made you overnight on their rice cookers and over the fire. It was just the most incredible experience of my life, just out in the wild. Left the stilettos and lipstick at home and off I went. It was brilliant. And then we went back down to Koh Tao, and my good friend Sharky, who features in a lot of Ibiza magazines and books, he was Darth Maul, normally sort of rolling around with his Coca Loca in his hand. The first thing I did was he took me to Freedom Beach in Koh Tao, and I went snorkeling. And that was when I've got goosebumps now. That was when I
Mm,
really saw, it was like the scenes in Finding Nemo and Little Mermaid. You go under, and it was like the most beautiful garden you'd ever seen in your life. The clownfish, the parrotfish, the colors of the corals. And I spent 2 or 3 days just snorkeling, just amazed by what I could see. And then we went around to Shark Island and we went out on a pedalo to see turtles and jumped into the water. I was getting a bit more braver then. Jumped into the water and was swimming around, and there were turtles everywhere, and it was
wow.
just beautiful. Anyway, swimming back to the pedalo, I will never forget this moment as long as I live. I sort of looked to my right to see where my friends were, and there was a great shark just swimming next to me like this. Just the stillness of the water and the quietness of it, but it was just the most beautiful thing I think I'd ever seen. But with a flip of the tail, it was gone. And I kind of tried not to crap myself because I knew if you panic and everything else. And I looked down, and then there were quite a few circling in the depths below. And I kind of was in awe of it. And I wasn't really afraid, but I thought I'm being really brave. But they were just minding their own business. But I got back onto the pedalo. And the first thing I did was pedal back, and I rang my mum and I said, "Mum, I've just been in the water with sharks." And she was just in my blind panic going, "What? What are you doing?" Anyway, next night I went out the same time with an underwater camera, and I got back in the water, and I'd found out that they were grey nurse sharks, which are harmless to humans, you know.
Yes.
And I just got back in the water and I was taking photos of them and everything else. And then the next day, that's when I decided, okay, let's give the paddy a go. And Sharky took us out to loads of different places, loads of destinations, and I was just besotted with under the sea. We went out to try and find whale sharks as well, but we didn't see them. And went down to Malaysia and did more diving there, and left Thailand. And I was working on going on a round the world trip. And I went over to Australia. And when I got to Australia, I thought, oh, we'll do a bit of diving here. And I had seen Jaws as a child, and I wasn't one of those children that was scared of it. It made me want to go and see. I wanted to see a great white myself to see what they were like, which is kind of weird, but they are just magnificent creatures. And I just always thought that Jaws didn't look real. But after seeing those grey nurse sharks and a couple of other different types of shark all around Thailand, I really wanted to see a great white. So while I was in Australia, I did a few more diving experiences around Melbourne. And then I went to help with the weedy sea dragon rejuvenation project, which was absolutely incredible. Because I don't know if you've ever seen a weedy sea dragon, but they're like a seahorse, but they look like seaweed. They're beautiful.
Okay.
And they were
I'll
just
check it out.
diminishing. They are
Definitely.
beautiful. They were diminishing. So there was a project rejuvenation project set up there, and I helped out with that. And that really got me into sort of marine conservancy. And I was really lucky enough to go up to Vanuatu to do some wreck dives. Did one of the biggest wreck dives in the world, the Coolidge, up in the Polynesian Islands, $1 Million Point. It was just incredible. And I really wanted to learn more. Went and did my advanced and my orientation diving as well while I was in Australia. And then I had children, and things changed, and I didn't get to go to Chile or anywhere else. So anyway, after a long, drawn out 10 years in Australia, I moved back home. And I think by then I was really interested in trying to help with projects, anti-shark finning mainly. My background with campaigning started when I was probably about 7 or 8, and I'd seen all the seal clubbings on the news up around Iceland and places like that. And I did a 3-legged race with my friend to raise money to help, stop the seal clubbing. And from then on, even through my teenage years, I was doing Bricks for Bears. I was doing helping with the donkey sanctuary. So I've campaigned for animals all my life. Animals need a voice. And if someone doesn't speak up for them, tragedy still happens.
Agreed.
And so it all started there. And then I came back to the UK and things changed once again. But it's all, yeah.
I can really identify with you there. I was fascinated with sharks
Yeah.
when I was younger, and I think it does stem from Jaws.
Yeah.
I was absolutely fascinated, and when I'd learned to swim, I was more interested in scuba diving, going under the water, checking everything out. And I remember when I was young, I learned to swim in Calpe in Spain.
Oh, nice.
I always remember I much preferred to go around the stones and the rocks and underwater and everything.
Rock pooling as well, yeah.
Oh, I love it. And here in Croatia, I'm very, very fortunate. We can just go we're 50 meters away from the beach. and
Yeah.
the water here is just beautiful.
Yeah.
And on 2 occasions, I've been going running in the morning. I know we were talking about running
Yeah. Yeah.
earlier. I used to go early morning running, and I've seen dolphins coming
Amazing.
in. And I saw a pod once, and the
Oh.
babies were jumping out of the water as
Oh.
the sun was coming up.
Yeah.
And so we went to the end of the promenade, and the sun was coming up over the mountains that I just
Yeah.
told you about. And
Yeah.
these little dolphins were just jumping. It was just like a
Oh,
scene
amazing.
from a movie. And there was me and this one other woman. And for some bizarre reason, it was the only day I didn't take my mobile. It was like
Oh.
it was like the universe said, "This is just for you.
Yeah, exactly.
This is just for you today." And this other girl was like, "I don't have a phone either." And it's just like, just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because I would have been, trying to
Yeah,
get
of
it, and it would
course.
have completely gone. But
Yeah.
I just totally took it all in, and I
Yeah.
was just like, wow,
I think
wow.
the best experience of my entire life, and I did have a camera with me, luckily, was when I went down to Fort Nelson in near Adelaide, and we went out 3 hours out to sea, no phone signal, nothing. Quite a small boat. Went out to see the great whites, cage diving with an open top
Ah,
cage. Um, I wasn't afraid at all. I was just hoping that we'd see one because they had said, look, they are in season, and they take you out to a point where there's two great big rocks, and the seals go. I don't know why they do it, but the seals go from one rock to another at sunset. Um, no one knows why they do it, but they're risking their lives because the great whites all live around there, and it's easy pickings for them. So you're likely to see sharks there, but it's quite a long way out. And the water temperature does get a lot colder there. I don't know if anyone's been to Australia, but the sea is freezing, especially down Adelaide. It takes a long time for it to warm up. Anyway, we're out at sea, and the little boat's rocking around, and they're banging on they do this thing where they bang on the boat and chuck in the tuna guts. I mean, that stinks. That's just not.
yeah, yeah.
And we were sitting bobbing around for about 2 hours, and they said, look, not sure we're going to see anything. And my heart sank. They just turned the boat back on. We're going to turn around and go back. I went, right, everyone down, everyone get down, go to starboard, look over. And I went running down, and I just imagined that we'd see a fin going around like this in the sea. And I was looking around. As I looked down, no word of a lie, this great big shadow was under the boat, and it was massive. And it was a 6.5 meter female great white. She was incredible. And everyone's going, who's going in first? I want to go in first. I want to go in first. So I got into the cage, and I had a wetsuit on that was leaking, and I started to get cold quite quickly, which was really, really frustrating. But I just was waiting for this shark to come back. It was just incredible experience. All the fish were like swarming around this tuna guts, and there was nothing. I was getting colder and colder. And then suddenly the cage started to sway a little bit, and all the fish disappeared. And literally out of nowhere, this great big thing came spiraling out from below like this, and then dislocated her jaw and just grabbed. I've never seen anything like it. It was just amazing. And off she went.
Wow,
I will never forget seeing that. Look at my goosebumps. Um,
wow. Yeah,
and then the cage started to move again, and she came back, and I did manage to get some photos. I think I sent you some. And she did start to come back, and you can just see her most beautiful thing. And she looked like Jaws. So in the 1970s movies, they did well
Steven
because
Spielberg.
the eyes, yeah, exactly, the eyes and everything. But she was magnificent, and I just wanted to stay in there all day. Look, she came around quite a few times, came and bumped the cage and everything. But she was huge, and there was another smaller 4-foot one there. But I got so cold, I had to get out the water. But that was the best thing I'd ever seen.
I-
And from then on, I just wanted to campaign, stop the sharks finning. That was at the time that Steve, crazy guy, I can't remember his name, menopausal brain. Steve Irwin. That was when
yes.
he died from the manta ray, because obviously I was living in Australia then. So
God, what?
he
Yeah,
was
I
very
remember that.
prolific. And he was trying to uncover, he died just while he was doing a massive project uncovering the horrors of the Japanese shark fin trawlers. And I just started to run marathons and things to help save the sharks and all this kind of thing over there. But it was just in vain, really, because people don't seem to care. And then
It's
when I
such a
came back,
shame, isn't it? The
I,
ocean is taken for granted so badly. I'm going to put some photos up in a minute for people, because I'm just about to explain something to you that's happened here in Croatia in the last couple of weeks. I told you we've had some rather insane hurricane force storms.
yeah.
In Dubrovnik, the sea decided to give the rubbish back.
Oh,
And all of a sudden, I'm going to put you some pictures of it, of the plastics and the stuff. And it just literally dumped it onto
yeah,
the beach. And everyone said underneath it, the sea's giving the rubbish back.
yeah.
And it's all, the plastics, not like, from what I can see, is not like bottles and things like that. It's more the stuff that the boats use. Like the plastic floats
Yeah.
and marine-based stuff, like
They chuck it all out at sea, don't
but
they? They
like
fill with it, and off it
a
goes.
temporary buoy that they'll use, like a bottle with a plastic
Yeah,
with a bit of string, so they
yeah,
can moor their stand-up paddleboard.
yeah,
We have a lot of that here. And when
yeah,
I was looking at it, it looked like it was a lot of marine equipment. And I
yeah,
was just like, whoa, maybe we're taking that for granted as well. Not just the people throwing shit away, but it
yeah,
just looked like just incredible photos, Lisa. I'll show you them
yeah,
to you. I haven't showed them to you yet. But
yeah.
yeah, it's just like it's such a shame
It's
because
awful.
it really annoys me, especially when we have some of the festivals and I see all
Oh,
the
don't.
canisters, the CO2. Is it
Oh,
the
God. The laughing gas.
nitrous laughing gas? That's it. The
Yeah.
laughing gas canisters, because they don't degrade.
No, we took 22 of those out of the wildlife, the little wildlife rehabilitation place in San Antonio. There's areas in most of the beaches
Yeah,
in the
by the Lineker's.
yes, the looky
Y-
looky men stash them in there at night. So whenever we do beach cleans there, we go in, take them all out. We 22 we got out of there last time
People
we
just
did the
throw
beach
them, don't
clean.
they?
Yeah,
And the
they
balloons as
either
well,
store them.
which just as bad. So
Yeah, balloons are
let's move
terrible.
on to that then. So Pure Sea, the birth of Pure Sea? Pure Sea is
Um,
your charity.
so
It's been going for how long? Why did you set
7
it up and when?
years. 7 years
7 years.
ago, when I came back from Australia, and I really wanted to. I couldn't dive again. There's no way I was diving in this country. I have recently learned to a free dive, which is different. But for many years, I missed going in the ocean. I was thinking, what else can I do? So obviously, me as a campaigner, an activist, and raising awareness, I locked on to plastic oceans. And I just had an operation and I was sitting watching Sky News and I could see all this amazing stuff Plastic Oceans was doing. And I really sort of tapped into them. So I started doing lots of fundraising projects for them. And it wasn't until I was jumping out of a plane that I had this epiphany. And as I was falling out of the sky, I don't know why, but as I landed and I thought, oh, that night I thought, I'm going to set up my own charity. And the words Pure Sea just came to me. I thought
Wow.
I want to see, because I was seeing them getting 10,000 million pounds worth of checks and this and that. And you go onto the website and I'd done so much for them and I didn't get thank yous. I didn't know where the money was going. They very rarely put out a lot of things, as a lot
Transparency.
of charities do. Yeah, there's not a lot of transparency on
Mm.
where things are going. And I thought, I want to set up something, a foundation, a trust, a charity, whatever it may be, to try and raise awareness for the shocking amount of plastic in the ocean, what it's doing to our marine life, the devastation and the horrific deaths that are caused from our waste in the ocean, and the plight of the animals, really,
Mm.
because not enough people knew about it. No one really knew about shark finning or anything like that. So I decided to set something up and I didn't really know how to go about it. I'm not very technical. And I thought, how am I going to fundraise? And because I've been working in the music industry and I've liked to put on a party since I was 5 years old, I thought, why don't I do a party and sell tickets and fundraise through ticket sales? and start putting the money to places. So I started to reach out to different rescue and research organizations around the world, like Minimi Shark Station. There's a guy that works with the my brain's not working.
Mine never does, don't worry.
No. um, and then I connected with my really good friend who I used to work in Ibiza with, Angela Warrior, because she's got We Love the Sea. So I started supporting her. So what did come in through the Pure Sea fundraising, I was going out to help the rescue and research teams around the world. Once I'd kind of recovered from operation number 1, I decided to start doing some beach cleans. And the first one we did was down in Brighton. And then we put on a party afterwards, and it was brilliant. And unfortunately, the first one, we were hit by a massive hurricane, and we were told that we shouldn't do it. But we went on and did it anyway, and it was quite funny. And then we did another one in Southend. And I think I'm very blessed, very, very blessed with the support that I get from the incredible DJs, the ones that have stuck with me from day one, like Brandon, Loudy, John Ulysses, Peasy. They've just been incredibly supportive. And to come along and put on a party and have these incredible legendary DJs of our time to support has been, amazing. And then that lovely C word struck us, and we were kind of taken away from everything just as we sort of hit a roll. And it was a battle through lockdown, because I wanted to make Pure Sea a charity. This actually does give me a good opportunity to explain how the charity works, how it's founded, because I have had a lot of questions. People have questioned my legitimacy.
Oh yeah, you'll get that. You'll get that.
Of course.
Yeah.
And it's nice to let people understand, if anyone is watching that has their concerns, where the money's gone, what we're doing with it. Pure Sea started 7 years ago, and like I said, I've been very, very lucky to have the support of people all around me to help push this, with the sponsors, with the photographers, with the videographers and everything. Sometimes that's not enough to keep a charity going. So after 3 years, we decided to apply for charity registration, and it's a long, drawn out process. And we applied just before lockdown, and unfortunately, a lot of that kind of thing within the government was locked away and forgot about until after lockdown. Really, people weren't dishing out charity registrations just like that.
Yeah.
Then through lockdown, obviously I met my partner Gary, and he was really supportive. And everything we tried to do things around that whole lockdown system. When we decided to set up the charity, it's not just me. I'm luckily supported by 2 directors, a trustee, and I've got my accountant, who is also an accountant for Mind, the big Mind charity.
Yeah,
so
I'm aware of it. Yeah.
And he's fabulous. He's really guided me through. As I said, I'm not very technical. Unfortunately, when he withdrew the original charity application, he realised that it had been put in just with a default application form. My charity it's under the umbrella of so many different things, like sewage. We want to go into education, we want to go into the schools, we want to do it globally and everything else. So there's objectives and adjectives under the whole role of the charity. So it's taken a long time to go through everything, work out what we want to do, what we can do. It's a big, big project. And it has to be monitored, and has to be, we have to do minutes meetings. We have all the accounts to scrupulise. It's been a really long, ongoing process. We've recently just reapplied because I need more sponsorships coming in. I need the legitimacy around me. So we've just reapplied. So fingers crossed we have reached charity status, but we're just waiting for the gift aid number, which is really difficult to get hold of at the moment.
Good on you, because there's been so many unscrupulous people out there that have taken advantage of this.
I know,
and that is why you're having to jump through hoops, and then that's why when people then question you,
of course.
but I think you're far beyond that now, because you've been going for so long.
Yeah,
everyone knows what you're doing. You're there year in, year out, and so if there's any sponsors out there,
I know.
they've got to go. I think it's it's some plastic in the sea is becoming much more spoken about over the last couple of years because of people like you. Talk me through a beach clean. I've never been on one. I'm ashamed to say I've never been on one. And I've seen them. We in Croatia here, we've got divers that come in from all around the country. I told you about this, haven't I? How
it's amazing.
the dive clubs all come once a year and they go diving and they pick a particular harbour every year, and they come for a dive, and all the Croatian dive clubs come together and they clean a specific zone in Navalia every year of all the metal, all the shit, not just plastic, but everything. And afterwards, they have a party that goes on all night and get absolutely plastered. And that's what they do. And they do it every single year. And I see that going on every year. And I've got my diving thing now, so I can join in next time.
Brilliant.
So,
Brilliant.
but yeah, we do have that here. But that's very different because that's a harbour dive.
Yeah.
Whereas they're literally pulling things out with nets. And so what is a beach clean? Is this like people just literally walking along the beach? Do you go into the water? How does it all work?
Right. So basically we're not, we've got our public liability and that doesn't cover drowning. So I do tell people not to go into the
that's good to know.
Drown on your plastic bottle of water.
Yeah. I was gonna put some B-roll over that. I don't think I'm gonna keep that one in.
No, so I obviously advertise the beach cleans. I do a lot of beach and river cleans without the party afterwards.
You've got a few coming up, haven't you?
Yeah, well, our big ones are Camden. We are proudly sponsored by Jesus, which is an industrial waste company based in the city. Another old Clockwork Ibiza veteran who runs that. It's brilliant, Steve Kirby. So we are really lucky that we do get some support from big industries as well. So basically, we set a time. I'll go down, my team will come down. I've got an amazing team of volunteers, like Joanne and Gary and Beat Junkies and everything. People will come down and help, get set up. And we get the volunteers. It's we advertise it all on social media. I normally go down to the area. I tap into the local groups for the area. Like you obviously get the community groups and things like that. And we do put a few posters up and get the word spread around. And sometimes we'll get a handful of people, or sometimes we can get up to 100 people. You just don't know who's going to turn up. The Brighton one we did last year with Norman Cook was brilliant. We had about 85 people come, I think. When we do Southend, one of the first ones I did was Southend New Year's Day, day after New Year's Day. And you'll be surprised how many people come to that one. That's a really popular one. And we just go for a Toby Carvery afterwards. And with that one, we join forces with Surfers Against Sewage, lovely Helen, and Win from Southend Beach Care. So we all meet up. We all get all the equipment out, the beach cleaning stuff, the pickers, the gloves, everything else. People just turn up. I have to give the safety talks so that people know what they can and can't do. I situate people in certain areas and off they go. And they just, every beach has a different type of rubbish. Southend is primarily nappies, wet wipes, candles, balloons, party paraphernalia, loads of bottles and things like that. Brighton, you'll get syringes, you'll get like the sharps, you'll get loads of drinks bottles, whatever. Cornish beaches are mainly fishing nets and paddle boards and phone. It's every beach tells a different story. And Camden is one of our favourites.
I was about to ask that because Camden is my old stomping ground. So Camden, do you do the lock?
Yes, we do the lock. We
by
did
the
it
market.
Yeah. We did it.
Jesus Christ! Well, I dread to think what's in there.
Oh, we found hoovers, we found suitcases, we found
bodies.
Yeah, you get a lot there. It's incredible. I did two Camdens prior to lockdown, and then through lockdown it got disgusting. And the problem is, my biggest hate is fast food restaurants, fast food everywhere. You don't need to go out, and people just chuck their rubbish out. And in Camden, there's nowhere to sit, and there's not enough bins. So in the height of summer, there's so many street food vans and street food things,
Yeah.
and there's nowhere to put it. So obviously it ends up in that lock, and it's disgusting.
And it is the lock as well, isn't it? And it's the if I'm right in saying the water's non-moving, isn't it?
It's not moving
Yeah.
until the lock opens,
And how
and then
often
it
does it
rushes
open?
down. We had a brilliant team last year come and help us. We've got it all documented actually by Faye and Poppy Valentine, and we held the party at the Cross afterwards. So that's about to go out next week, I think, with Billy Riley. Brandon Block came along, got Loudy on there, all chatting about what we do and how much they love to be involved. But this one particularly, we had a lot of people turn up. It was fabulous. The things that we found, it shocks people into wanting to learn more. So Jesus provided us with a skip. We plonked the skip in just under the bridges, with lockers.
Yeah, of course.
And everybody came along, give them all their bags to go out. Gary was amazing, leaping over all the fences and gathering stuff from places. People coming back going, can't believe what we're finding. Everyone was coming back to me and saying, I can't believe what we found. Come and see this. Da, 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 da. There was a fire escape of a club that was literally like smothered in bags and cases and bottles and fast food stuff. It was unbelievable, but we filled that skip, and it's great. And all those people that did it last year want to come back this year. The best thing, because people do say to me, what has beach cleaning got to do with music? What's it got to do with going out clubbing? The connectivity of people through this is brilliant through the music. Saya, for example, actually was messaging me yesterday. She came to do a beach clean in Ibiza with our Slip Back in Time last year, this year. And she'd never done one before, and she was fully involved in it. And now she's going, I can't walk down a beach or walk past a river without picking up rubbish. Thank you for opening my eyes to this. And more people that do it, the more people do it, the more people love it. Like Mike from Switch It Up in Brighton, every day now he's out cleaning rubbish before he does his run. And it opens people's eyes. And obviously with a party afterwards, it's bringing more people it's raising more awareness and bringing more people into the community of cleaning. It's great.
The last week it was really hot over here in Croatia. I went for a walk with my middle child, the up and coming DJ.
I know, yeah. He's great.
and
He's
cameraman.
gorgeous.
And we sat down and near this hotel and just opposite the beach. And there was this, I think he was a old Croatian guy, and he was just setting up for the day. I don't know how people sit on the beach all day. I could never do it, but this lot do.
Yeah.
And they get down there early in the morning, and we were going for an early morning walk. And he put his towel down and everything, but then he went walking around as far as his area was, picking every bit of rubbish up.
Yeah.
Every bit of rubbish up and just put it in the bin, and he just
Yeah.
made sure it was immaculate before he'd even started.
Yeah.
And I said to my son, that's what you've got to do. And he totally gets it. And my bigger boy, always tidying around them. And if everyone could do that,
Yeah. Well, this is what this is all about.
we wouldn't have a problem. Look at the Japanese.
I know, they're amazing.
The way it's so disheartening when sometimes I walk in the mornings and it's, obviously a lot of them are drunk in my town from the clubs and stuff, and you see the fast food waste, and you're right, because if I remember a statistic, when I lived in Southampton, McDonald's was 50% of the rubbish on the street, I believe. I think that was the statistic is that high, where the rubbish that they're creating, it accounts for 50% of the street rubbish.
Yeah, totally.
One company.
Yeah.
So
going back to the children side of things, unfortunately I had to put the brakes on this year after having a major operation and developing this autoimmune disease. So taking a step back, it did kill me, like setting people off on their cleans and river cleans and everything else, and me having to hold back, and I wasn't able to pick or lift all this year. But in that time I was sitting around a lot, and I've connected and corroborated with a couple of big campaigners like Think Ocean and Gratitude, and really delved into how we can try to get ocean awareness, wildlife, and education and waste education into the curriculum, because these young these young, innovative, creative minds, if we get it into them at a young age,
Mm.
and drill in some weight about the waste, about looking after the planet, about cleaning up after yourself, this is a key time to, drill it into their brains so that they then go on to take that into their further education. They might then go to take it on into the workplace. It's all well and good. We've done a lot of stuff within the corporate industry. It's great because a lot of corporations now are plastic free within their workplaces, or they do the plant the trees, but it's sustainable to a point, and then they'll stop or something,
Mm.
Whereas getting this education into the curriculum, I think, is vital for our next generation. It's really important. I discovered that this year in particular was all the fundraising from when we did the event with Fatboy Slim, through Christmas, through the raffle, through our event that we did in Camden last year. All of the money we raised from that, we put into a shark science educational program, where Angela Warrior, who's We Love the Sea over in Mexico, who I've been, she's one of our beneficiaries and a good friend, we put our heads together and set up an ocean school in Pembrokeshire this year. And I've only ever really gone and taught, it's all volunteering, but it's going into all the schools and the Cub Scout groups. And I normally aim to, teach little children about it. This was a big step for me, big step for us. I went round, scouted all the different areas around the Pembrokeshire coast. We linked up with Celtic Deep and a couple of students from Swansea University that are marine biologists. And I sort of worked out the best places to go. And it was a big step for me after being so poorly as well. Gary came to be the minibus driver. We had Darren come along to be the photographer. We had really good group of volunteers with us, and we took 10 students out. So our charity fundraising this year all went to that. We took 10 students out. We took them out free diving. We took them out to the weedy seagrass restoration sites. We did rock pooling.
Mm.
We did bruvs. We took out with a cat shark. And I finally found where I need to be. It was such a success. There were 10 students that were just absolutely drawn to what we were doing. They've all sent these amazing reports back saying, thank you for opening our eyes to marine science, basically. They didn't realise what was under the ocean. 5 of them now are in Swansea University doing degrees as marine biologists, which is just,
Wow.
and this is what we need to do. We need to create ambassadors for our oceans early.
It is incredible when you go under that water, isn't it?
It's
And
really
then so many
emotional.
people don't understand what's under there.
They don't.
And they just take it for granted.
Yeah.
I've got in my notes the Little Ripples project.
Ah, yeah.
Is that or is that something? This is it. Is that what it's called?
Not so much them, because they were more grown up, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. So explain. So you've got something, but that was like this is like for younger.
The younger ones. This is something I started pretty much when I started Pure Sea. My background was in teaching. I've been a nursery nurse, childminder, nanny most of my life, which is another story when it comes
as
to
a Manumission entertainer. I'm going to cross over.
Yes, I was a very, very well sought after nanny in Australia. I wasn't out clubbing in those days. But education has always been something that I've always done. I did my qualifications in childcare and education and all that kind of thing. So, and I love working with children. I adore them. That's why when I saw your son, I was like, oh, he's so cute.
He's adorable. He's a mini me, unfortunately.
Yeah.
He's a menace. He's an absolute menace.
When I had my children, I came back as a single parent to the UK. I was childminding again. And because I was a stay-at-home mum, I was in the school all the time with both kids, went on all their school trips. I was doing the reading and I just love being in the classroom. So as soon as I started doing this, alongside the beach cleans, I was just taking myself into all the local schools and doing like the Little Ripples project within the schools, like hands-on activities with them, like filling up a big vat of water.
Fantastic.
putting, the wind-up swimming turtles. I was getting loads of rubbish. The wind-up turtle will go into the water.
Mhm.
They can watch him swimming, and I get them to chuck the rubbish in, and then they can see the turtle stop swimming, and that's kind of an eye-opening way for them to
Oh, yeah.
be
Yeah.
able to see what's happening in the sea. Now the turtle can't swim,
Yeah.
and the biggest thing that I go down to Kingston all the time and chop all her balloons off her bloody outside of her party shop and snip them all up and take them in and say, "What are you doing?" And she doesn't care. The worst murder weapon in the ocean, other than oil slicks and things like that, is a balloon, a helium balloon. People set these helium balloons off and you see them flying through the sky. They do it for births, deaths, marriages. They don't realise where those balloons end up. A staggering 38% of them end up in the sea, which you might not think that's a
But they're
lot.
eaten,
They're
aren't they?
eaten.
Yeah.
The minute anything like that, like the rubber or any plastic, lands on the ocean surface, within 7 days that will smell and taste of salt, and it's got a string attached to it. So any creature, a bird, a turtle, anything coming out to eat it, will start to choke on the balloon and then get tangled in the ribbon. And it's horrific to see those
Slow
deaths
deaths.
happen.
Yeah.
Um,
Ooh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I go into the schools and I show the children these balloons, and I go in like, first thing I say is, right, who's afraid of sharks? And they're like, me, me, me. By the time I come out of there and explain that sharks should be more scared of humans, hundreds of millions of sharks get killed every year by humans, but maybe 1 to 7 people might die from a shark attack, but the shark hasn't attacked that human. It's just wanting food. The humans in the shark's water. And I also teach them about the importance of not letting these balloons go and having paper straws and things. And they really learn a lot from it. And one of the best things I think we've done is, stick the tail on the donkey. Well, we do pin the fin on the shark. And they're all kind of like confused by that. Well, why have we got to stick the fin back on the shark? And when you try to explain that a lot of sharks die because they're dragged out of the water, finned for this non-nutritional substance that they take from the shark and thrown back in, we do the stick the fin on the shark.
Yeah.
And they love it. And it's education from an early age, that's really important. And that's where Little Ripples came from. And it's
Yeah.
success. Now I'm feeling a little bit better. I should be able to get back out into the schools and carry all my equipment and get back out there. So I'm quite keen.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing you're doing, and I'm glad I've worn a blue jumper now. I look like
Well,
you. It
then
was a complete accident, by the way. I didn't plan this.
I'll have to send you over your bubble hat.
And how do children react? I know how my children, especially my oldest, gets quite upset about the animals and about the
Of course.
rubbish, especially in
course.
summer. He doesn't
Yeah.
like tourists because he thinks they leave their rubbish everywhere, and he's seen a couple of videos on YouTube, funnily enough,
Yeah.
that were upsetting him, with animals that have got caught in plastic stuff and things, and he gets very emotional. How do you find that children generally react when they see and learn about ocean protection and the filth that goes in the ocean? Are they surprised?
Yes, to an extent. I think certain children aren't always surprised by everything because they are sponges and they're learning. So they take it in. They're willing to learn, but you always get 1 or 2 in the classroom that know all this already. You always get some that will sit and be really upset by it. You always get some, you get a very mixed bag with children. You get some children that see this on YouTube, but overall they really do want to learn. The most upsetting thing that ever happened with me with teaching kids in the schools was my own son's primary school. I spent 5 days with all the different ages, but primarily with his end of, it was when he was in year 6 and about to leave. And there were 4 classes. So I spent a lot of time going into the school, even did the summer fair with them and taught them all about the balloons and everything. And the teachers were there and they loved it. And then became that it was their last afternoon, their leaving ceremony. And they all did their songs and they all did everything else. And then the teacher came out with 90 helium balloons for them to all set free with their last song. And the looks on their faces when they were told to release the balloons. My child held his behind his back and popped it. Some kids popped them, but some of them were so distressed and couldn't understand why I'm standing there watching this. And I'd been telling them not to do this. Afterwards, I approached a teacher. Some of them came and brought their balloons to me, and I said, "Thank you, this is amazing." But watching those balloons fly off after I'd spent weeks in that school was heartbreaking. And I said to the teacher, "Why did you do that?" And she was like, well, we had a PTA meeting and the parents wanted it to happen. I went, but, and then the headmistress came over. She said, oh, I'm sorry. She said, but they are biodegradable. I said, right, you take that balloon, you pop it, put it in a jam jar on your sink, and in 5 years' time, ring me and tell me what state that balloon's in. It will still be fully intact. I said, it's rubbish. And I never went back to that school. I didn't go back and help with them or
I
anything.
bet
I was really
the
upset.
kids must have felt so conflicted
It was awful.
because they're being told to do something and then, so it wasn't miscommunication.
No.
It was just
Oh, the Parent Teacher
ignorance.
Association wanted them to release the balloons because it's so lovely.
PTA.
Yeah. Oh. So, but I've been
God
approached
almighty,
this
yeah.
year. Yeah, next year I'm going to be working with Crow. I'm going to be working with older students. I'm going into a secondary school. So Crowthorne, and I can't remember the name of the school. They've asked me to go in teaching the geography GCSE kids. So I'm
Wow.
quite excited about that. And working with Gratitude as well, and Think Ocean. We do sustainable fashion shows. We got them on the catwalk with Susie's lovely clothing that's all vintage and sustainable clothes. Got that on the Paris, that would be nice, London Fashion Week last year. So we're going to try and get involved in that again. And it's just education in all different manners of interpretation, you know. It's just integrating into different sectors to educate generations or corporates or businesses. You know, it's really important.
It's about time we change this bloody curriculum, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, bring in life skills and looking after our planet and actually how to go out and live a life, not algebra.
Yeah, don't.
You know, or things we'll never ever learn or
Where's
use
woodwork?
again.
Where's woodwork? Dressmaking? You know, everything's throwaway now. Gary brought this up the other day. And he said there's no woodwork. They're not teaching them on circuit boards anymore. They're not teaching them how to, you know, Japan, actually, even though I'm not keen on the place because of their torture of animals and goodness knows whatever else, they've actually got it right. They, in their schools, the children, they don't have cleaners. So the teachers and the children at the end of every day get rid of the waste into the recycling places. They clean the whole school up before they go home. That, I think, is brilliant. That's genius, you know.
Just learning
really
from
good education.
an early age, and their manners are so much better, and it's just I mean, we're very blessed here that in Croatia that the kids are so well brought up here, and I think that also stems from the generation before going through 5 years of civil war as well, and discipline and hardship and loss, and that's fucking serious. What your uncle went through, you know, being on the front line against the Serbians, you know, and now having PTSD. You will do as you're told, you know. And I just find that this generation that's coming through since are just the most well-educated, polite and grateful. And that's why I love living here. And I think maybe that is lacking in some countries.
Yeah.
So
here there's a lot of conflict here. There's not going to go into that kind of thing.
Yeah, it gets a bit. What's your journey from Ibiza performer to ocean activist? I mean, that's some difference. There's some change, isn't it? Did you ever think that would happen? But you've always been an activist, though.
Always.
Always.
Not such an activist. I've always, I mean, before social media and things like that, like I touched on before, animals go through hell. Absolute sheer hell. They are tortured. Commercial farming, don't even get me started on that. Testing, you know, foreign countries with the, you know, I bought 3 donkeys back from Pakistan that were just abused.
Wow.
So, to the donkey sanctuary in Sydney.
That's a little bit unusual. What have you done today?
I had a little bit of money in my early 20s. I worked. Oh, sorry, I don't care. I worked in Stringfellows in my early 20s. Back in the day when you used to earn quite a lot of money, and I was so compassionate about saving animals even then that I put a lot of money into animal rescue. And the bear bile factories, I did a lot to help stop them from running, from existing. And then the Bricks for Bears started, and they were taking the bears out of these factories. I did a lot of stuff with stopping Angora. We stopped French Connection using Angora. Also stopped the dolphin slaughter in 3 islands, including the Solomon Islands. I managed to get 90,000 petitions through Greenpeace and PETA and things like that. This is in the early days of Facebook. But
Yeah,
they
yeah,
stopped the
yeah.
dolphin slaughter in 3 islands. So I've always been very active in having a voice for animals, you know, the shark finning, and it's barbaric, it's disgusting. That's always been there. But I think it's Ibiza taught me to travel, I suppose.
Mhm.
I'd never been on a plane before, like I said, when I went to Ibiza.
Independence as
Yeah,
well.
exactly.
Doing something by yourself.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
after Ibiza, I then decided I got the travel bug, and that's when I went to Thailand, and then I was going to go here, and then I went to Australia, and then went up to Polynesian Islands, and so that came from that. But obviously, my heart and soul has always still been about helping to raise awareness or help. Now, the beauty of social media, a lot of people probably turn off or don't like to look at my things or might call me a hypocrite when I'm sharing a lot of things, but it's awareness that makes people's eyes open to what's going on, you
Mm.
know?
Yeah.
And it's an incredible platform to use because people now come to me and say, thank you. Even the other day with all those 30, was it 30,000? No, 3,000 moo cows on livestock going off to Libya that didn't get let into Libya. So they then got turned away and they had to go to Turkey. They weren't allowed to go into Turkey with 3,000 cows alive on that boat. Some of them were giving birth in their own feces and God knows what. They stopped that shipment going in, and those cows were left there for 66 days to die on the boat. And I did share that because we're trying to stop livestock being shipped around the world. Imagine the terrification of these animals. Sorry, that's a word I made up. Of these animals, what they go through, and to be just left like that.
No,
And
I get it. I get it.
a few people have got back to me and said, I never even realised animals had to travel. God, it must be awful for them. But people have no idea what goes
Was I
on.
right in saying that Huntington was beagles?
Yes.
It was, wasn't it? There has
Yeah.
been an explosion of beagle ownership
Yeah.
as pets,
Yeah.
which I
Yeah.
love because we had a
Yeah.
beagle in Ibiza. Dirty Rotten
Ah.
Dean,
Yeah.
Dirty Rottens had
Yes.
Rocco the beagle. And
Ah.
we never used to see them ever.
No.
We used to,
No.
and they are the reason why they test on beagles is because they're so placid.
Yeah.
I
It's awful.
love you. I'll do whatever, you know. And
Yeah,
Rocco was the
cool.
same. And Dean always used to say, I don't really get to see a lot of other beagles about. And I
No.
thought that when I went back to England I was there for 2 winters. Didn't see a beagle at all.
No.
Nowadays, you see them everywhere.
Yeah.
And so hopefully that's a sign of them stopping testing on beagles, because it was a perfume thing, wasn't it? They were testing on
Yeah,
them.
they're tested. Drugs, all drugs are tested on. There's still a lot of puppy labs. There's
Yeah,
a
I bet.
hell of a lot of laboratories. It's mainly small monkeys, rabbits, cats, and Mac have stopped testing on cats now. Literally, cats.
Imagine getting up to work and doing that every day. It's just fucking hell. But
Well,
so
it's the
what
guys that work in the slaughterhouses. People say, "Well, how can you work in a slaughterhouse?" But it takes a kind of person. Now, I mean, even the biggest cheese factories just shut down in Cornwall because they've had CCTV put in and seen the horrific way that these people treat these animals. They don't care. They're electrocuting them, kicking them off the trucks as they get down off the trucks. They're falling over. They're kicking them to get back up, electrocuting them to get them in. People have no idea what goes into these processes in commercial farming.
Yeah.
It's awful.
We
It's
have
another whole thing, you know.
a cheese on Pag where I live. It's the world's best cheese. And it always wins the competitions all around the world for the best cheese. And their animals, they really look after.
Yeah.
Because they produce this, because of the salt here, the high level of salt, the vegetation is salty.
Yeah.
So when they're eating, the milk or whatever they're producing is salty. So the cheese is a very particular taste.
Yeah.
And it can only be that taste here.
Yeah.
So instead of them treating the animals badly, they're treated like royalty.
So they should be.
Yeah,
You know, animals are our food source. I'm
yeah,
not denying that. I do, I fish and birds, occasional moo cows, but I look for outdoor bred or organic,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it's obviously more expensive. Commercially farmed animals, it is quite horrific, and it's a cheaper meat because, and then people can afford it. People can't afford to buy organic; it's so expensive. But the organic farms and the outdoor bred farms are a completely different kettle of fish to commercial farming. And the more people there are, the more requirement there is for more things, for more eggs, and they pump everything full of hormones to make them grow faster. And you know, it's no fun, but people do need to eat. But there's just too many people on this planet. I'm
I
sorry.
think that there's greed,
Yeah,
excess.
yeah.
Like if you compare walking
Imagine the
into,
waste.
oh, oh, I actually looked into this once about um, why don't they give away, sell the waste, and would that be a
Yeah,
viable business?
yeah,
And it's very complicated to do,
yeah.
very, very,
Oh,
very
I know.
complicated. Because I thought to myself, um, my mum has always worked in market research, so she's always gone from shop to shop to shop and business to
Yeah,
business, and at the end of the day, sometimes she'll get offered loads of products that are
yeah,
just, and she'll go, why can't you just give them away? And they're not allowed to. They've got to throw them in the bin.
right. Yeah,
It's just like, and
yeah,
this happens a lot.
yeah,
And I at one point I looked into what it would take to set up a business where you would sell that food for half the price
yeah,
to
yeah.
people in poverty, or and the regulations behind it.
It's ridiculous. It wasn't.
I think it's set up to stop it, to be honest,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
they can profit more.
Exactly. I think one of the most heartbreaking things is I was lucky enough to be taken on an all-inclusive holiday. The food that I'm still gobsmacked now at watching what happens at the end of every meal. Everything being scraped into bin bags. The amount of food that's
Mm.
put out for all these people and then scraped into bin bags morning, noon, and night is shocking. And then when you think of all the fully inclusive places around the world, that food goes into the bin. And
I
it's
believe it's a third. I believe it's a third of all food made is thrown away, or something crazy.
mad. And then you think all those animals' lives wasted.
Yeah,
That's, you know,
absolutely, absolutely. But no, I've looked into the figures. This was only a couple of years ago, and it's monstrous, the
yeah,
percentage that is given up. I don't think they can even put a figure on it
no, no.
accurately. And so, what message do you hope people take away from PSC and all the work that you've been
Um,
doing and continue to do?
I believe, we are making an impact on people's attitudes.
Yeah.
I do try to do a lot of posts, obviously setting up PSC Family and PSC Presents. I've got the two acquisitions there where people can either be involved in just the ocean side of things or the party side of things. But I think mainly is opening people's eyes to what's going on in the ocean, getting compassion from people, for once they've seen, and then talking about it. As I said earlier, monkey see, monkey do. The amount of people that we've brought along to the cleans that bring their children, that then tell their friends, and they're quite surprised by when people say, why are there cotton buds on the beach? Well, they've come from cruise ships or
Mm.
landfill or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, really? And people are quite shocked at this, and it's opening people's eyes. And I think the more people that come and join in with what we're doing or take notice of what we're doing, the more they go forward. Even with little things like, you know, for octopuses are my thing as well. It's not just the sharks; it's the octopus, and I am in love with octopuses. And I want everyone to watch my octopus teacher on
It's
on.
unbelievable, isn't it?
Oh, it's amazing!
Unbelievable.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. They have been here for 30 billion years, longer than us, and they've adapted to their
One of the
life.
best things I've
You
ever
know,
seen.
it is, and I want
Yeah.
everyone to watch it. One of my biggest goals is to try and stop people from eating octopus. And I never forget Andy Galea a few years ago when "You'll never stop a Spaniard eating octopus." And I went, because he was going, "Why have you got your tattoos of octopuses?" And I went, he said, "I love octopus. Me and my dad eat it all the time." And "Do you know what an octopus is? Do you know?" And he went, "You'll never stop me eating an octopus." Anyway, last year He went, "You bitch." And I went, "What?" He went, "I have not been able to eat an octopus since I saw that." And I went, "Good, brilliant. It's finally star for me."
I think Nick Ferguson is the same.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he hasn't. I'm sure he said.
Yes, he put something on the other day because I do. Yeah,
he did. I don't know whether he's being he's sarcastic, Nick, but I think he was actually being honest.
Yeah.
Because Nick's got a sarcasm to him as well. But
You can
but I think
de-octopus people. It's great.
I think he was being deadly honest because
Yeah.
I can't eat octopus.
No.
I mean, it was a marvelous piece of
Yeah.
piece of film. I don't know how they managed to document that to that level. It was
And the
incredible.
manner in which they kill them as well. I mean, originally, it goes back centuries. They drag them out and they hang them up inside out to dry in the sun, which I can't imagine. They have more sensory glands than us.
Mm.
They feel pain. They feel
Everything feels pain. Yeah,
you can't imagine that. And now what they're doing with the flurry, I mean, Sea Shepherd are incredible. I aspire to get out there and do what they're doing. But
incredible stuff.
It's a slow process, and we're building. Gary and I come up with all these different ideas of what we want to do, but it's getting those sponsorships. It's getting someone to come along and go, right, we're going to back you to do this. But I love the fact that they go out and they pull in all because they're putting these plastic tubes into the sea, which are plastic, obviously causing toxicity to the ocean. But the octopus goes into the plastic tube and they go around dragging them all up. And then they're putting them into these octopus farms. Now they put up to 500 octopi into one tank at time until they're ready to flurry freeze them or kill them, whatever it is they do. And an octopus cannot bear to be near another octopus. So not only are they going through that horror of being dragged out the sea, probably being dragged out of the pipe with all their babies inside them, which are so maternal, they literally die for their babies. They're put into these tanks of 500 octopuses, which it must be awful for them to be on top of other octopuses and then dragged out and freeze fried or something. It's just.
We're not the nicest of species, are we?
No.
And
anyway,
don't get too upset. I can see you. Yeah. Anyway, I have actually changed the name of this podcast from One More Tune because we were having some trouble with search, and now it's called the Dexter Jones Podcast. But I'm still going to keep the last question. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a One More Tune of the night that you'd play if you could?
I do, and it is a bit cheesy.
Don't care.
But again, I have a very eclectic. People that know me will be laughing. This tune was played very early in the morning in the back room at Manumission, week in, week out, probably 2 or 3 years running, as the sun was coming up, and all the entertainers and performers were there. The choir boys doing their shaving, the people eating their cornflakes, the Benevision in the corner, sun coming up, twinkling over everything, and it was Dario G Sunshine.
Oh yes.
And it just, those steel drums go through me now.
What a track.
And that is a track that just takes me right back to close your eyes and wish you were there.
Yep. No, totally with you on that. Didn't he pass a couple of years ago?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. No, I remember that from a bit. That is Ibiza.
Oh, that was just, I'm going to listen to it in a minute and have a little dance around the kitchen. Just amazing. I
will try and put it on the podcast, but it'll probably flag me up for copyright straight away. But Lisa, I don't know if you want to talk about anything else, but that is there anything else you want to bring up regarding Pure Sea?
Don't know. I think we've kind of gone over everything.
Yeah.
I just want to give a heartfelt thank you. I'm not going to cry. To everybody that has been there, that has believed in me from day one, that has joined in, that has told other people, the DJs that have come and played for us, and even the support from my our closest, like Beat Junkies and Bridget and Aid and my brother, for all of his incredible artwork. I'm supported by the most amazing people, the videographers, the filmographers, the photographers, the venues,
Yeah.
We get into the most incredible venues, and even to have Norman Cook come and do a beach clean with us and come and play, and Woody, and to be supported by such prolific people in this industry and get what we're doing is just been amazing. And my partner Gary, for everything, he's just been there to support me wholeheartedly. It's been a journey. It's been a real labor of love. Believe me, it's been quite heartbreaking because I am a non-profit charity, and some people don't know me. I'm pretty much hand to mouth. If people don't quite understand, but I will never give this up. And
Yeah.
it's been a real heartache and a ball ache trying to get this actual registration number. But we will get there. We will get there, and it's just
Consistency.
I
Yeah,
just
and
wanna
I
thank
know you'll
everyone.
get there. On that note, I will leave this. We've had a wonderful couple of hours together.
Yeah, thank you.
And yet again, I will see you in Ibiza, and
Definitely.
we'll chat again very, very soon.
And thank you,
and
everyone.
is that Freddie Mercury looking at me over your shoulder?
Oh, of course it is.
Ah,
He is my.
yeah.
I don't know if you know, but people that have been to it every decade on my birthday, I actually do a Freddie tribute with the teeth, the hairy chest, and I come out in the harlequin
That
outfit.
sounds familiar. The thing is, your shoulder's been covering most of him. I've just seen his little head popping above.
Yeah, he's there. With his Father Christmas hat on.
Fantastic. Lisa, thank you very much. You're an angel, and keep up the good work.
All right. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. I love what you're doing. It's amazing.
I love what you're doing. You're better.
Oh, no.
Okay. Love you loads, and I'll speak to you soon.